Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise. Oh my god. Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist? Back it up. Hit it from the back. Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
You know, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, you know, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor. Whoa. Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. Are you a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How ya doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're gonna hear from a Christian apologist about what to do when atheists attack. Because apparently atheist attacks are pretty common now. I don't know. Is there an echo on the vertical?
What? Wine money. I can actually just make wine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't do anything about that. Okay. Because I mean, I'm pumped up and everything. I don't know what to do else. Okay, you might have it open on a different tab or something like that. I'm not exactly sure there, but huh? Oh, sorry, I thought you said something. But anyways, tonight we're gonna find out what to do if an atheist attacks, because as we all know, atheists are feral animals. We just roam the countryside looking for Christians to pounce on and fuck your God, and then we run back off into the forest like a hobbit. Probably to have second lunch or third dinner. I don't know, whatever it is. Anyways, all right. So we're going to be covering what to do when an atheist attacks. Christian apologist is going to elucidate what he thinks will stave off these these atheist attacks on Christians, or how to deal with atheist attacks on Christians. As we all know, Christians are the most persecuted group in America, right? Anyways, if you want to fuck around and find out how we're attacking Christians, because I don't fucking know how, then please stay tuned. So the main screen there on the vertical doesn't actually do the little intro thing that I have yet to change out. I also need to add, I forgot to do this earlier. Let's see, can we add where's the scene at? Scene. Might as well do it now. Notifications, there we go. Right on top there. Probably do it like that. Anyways, because we do have a few super chats to go over first. We got Eric Mishima saying, me and 10 more employees at a Pizza Hut in Maryland all say good night, David. Love the show. And incidentally, we did get the Daniel M saying, David says, good night. Good night there, David. I hope you have an awesome night, weekend, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you so much, Daniel, for sending that in. I do believe that we're due for another Skeptic Mafia hangout, so that will be happening this weekend. If you happen to want to join us, all mafiosos are invited, everybody at the mafioso level and higher. So we will probably be doing that maybe tomorrow, because I know we're doing something on Sunday. So it'll have to be like tomorrow afternoon, let's say around 2 p.m. Does that sound good? Yeah? Casey's like, whatever in the fuck. So anyways, if you're new here to the stream, we like to donate to charities. Last month we were donating to a, I believe it was a cancer awareness. We donated to cancer awareness. This month, last year in February, we actually donated to the Equal something initiative. March. I know it's March, okay. But I'm saying last year we donated to the Equal. I can't remember what it's called. I got it in my notes. But it's that one, when that guy from here in Alabama, we watched that movie with Michael B. Jordan in it. What was that place? Yeah, it's Equal Something Initiative or something like that. Anyways, we're probably going to be donating to that this month. Huh? I'm getting there. So basically they take on cases where people have been wrongfully convicted, and they try to get them a new trial so that they can prove their innocence. And they've been really helpful in getting people's freedoms, winning people's freedoms that have been wrongfully convicted and put into jail. And especially for here in Alabama, as well as across all of the South, most of that is going to be like, black people wrongfully imprisoned. That's not to say that white people aren't as well. I'm just saying that overwhelming majority of people that they deal with are in the black community. So we are going to be donating to them this month. So if you want to help us out with that, I appreciate that. Like Eric sending in his super chat. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Then we got Trickster who says, when atheists attack, the new release from Blumhouse. They can. Yep. And I got notifications up on the vertical stream too. So that's awesome. He was dancing because Elizabeth Richardson sent in a chat. I've been MIA for a while, so here's to catch up a bit on some missed donations. Hope you've all been well. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. You're awesome. That's so awesome that you donated that. Thank you so much. But anyways, so we are going to be covering this One Atheist Attack thing. Before that, though, we do have some news. We got some comments. Brocephus is out tonight, so sorry about that. I didn't have anything for him to actually read off. I was kind of under the gun, getting the stuff ready for the stream. I was late in streaming. So Brocephus is out doing his own thing tonight, so we won't have that, but we do have some news to go over. Is everybody ready for news? Also, the new vertical layout, KC, lovely wife right over here, helped me make it a bit more palatable since we're going to be doing this dual vertical streaming thing. What did I say? Palatable? Visually appealing. Yes. Okay, sorry. I thought palatable was a very uppity way of describing it. Makes me look and feel more important. Okay. Also tonight, drinking whiskey. Just straight. I'm not mixing it with anything. This is Premium Dickel, by the way. This is that Premium Dickel whiskey. It's really good. Like, okay, so Premium Dickel is not the regular Dickel, obviously. This is above average Dickel, and above average Dickel is a little bit more expensive, but it also has a very smooth taste to it. Like, it's very easy to just sort of sip on for a bit. Sorry, I got choked up on my own spit there. But this Dickel is very easy to swallow. Great. Yeah, it was very veiny. A little bit right there. Yeah. Yeah, it was smooth Dickel, not veiny Dickel. That's right. All right, let's get this Dickel moving. Today I fucked up again. What? Huh? Yeah, so apparently a lot of people have problems with my ukulele playing. The ukulele is very obviously meant to sound bad. So we're gonna go back and I'm gonna do this correctly here. Okay, y'all ready? Let's talk about some really depressing new shit. I really got to come up with a standard thing there. Okay, so for those of you watching vertical, you've got a very brand new look here that is going to be a lot more appealing. Also, hopefully the comments on the screen are not going to be filling up all that much. So if you would, please comment in the chat on the vertical side to make sure that it doesn't cover me up or anything like that. That would really help us out here. You could just comment random shit in there right now just so that we can take a look at that. Anyways, so we do have news. Let me get my notes up because the news tonight is rather fucky. Random comment from Casey. All right, so first up, hold on. Oh, wait, fuck. Hold on. I forgot. There we go. All right. So his face just makes me uncomfortable. He is a douchebag. All right. So first up tonight is Hating America. That's what I've titled this particular news section. No, you're right, honey. He is not premium Dickel. This is very mediocre Dickel right here. It's a little Dickel. It's bottom shelf Dickel energy. Just saying. Anyways, last night's State of the Union address showed the stark contrast between the liberal and conservative sides of Congress. Mike Johnson, seen here uncomfortably discussing his recent porn selection with his son, remained visibly disturbed that Biden was saying words. He knew that words were a trigger for his side of Congress, and Marjorie Taylor Greene and also the guy wearing the Never Surrender shirt represented by Trump surrendering himself to authorities didn't disappoint one bit. Last night's State of the Union made it really hard to both sides this shit. Republicans sat down and disapproved of a lot of things, including lower prescription costs, giving teachers a raise, protecting the border. That was actually kind of fucking surprising right there. It was surprising for a number of reasons, but mostly because it was a bipartisan bill that was drafted by the Republicans. Fucking Katie Britt. Didn't she draft some kind of law that they were passing? And then Trump was like, nope, I don't like it. And so Katie voted against her own fucking bill that she co-sponsored. And she signed out like, yep, that sounds good to me. This is premium Dickel right here. And then Trump was like, nah, I don't like it, yo. And so she's like, you know what? I agree. Totally fucking stupid. Why did we even try? So there's that. Patriotic messages, which is also very surprising considering all of the patriotic stuff they claim is that describes their group. I was trying to think of the best way to put that. Replacing lead pipes that supply drinking water. That was really surprising. We actually have a comment of a Republican that we're going to go through tonight talking about that. I don't know why this was not cheered. Like, we're going to replace the lead pipes with safer pipes that you can drink water out of. And then the Republicans are like, nah, I want to drink my lead water. That's what I want to drink. I want to give my kids lead water. Apparently, I guess, maybe. Equality in general is another thing that, of course, they hate, as well as many more good things that Biden has either done, will do, or that Congress has done. Republicans seem to not like it when America in general does well. They only want to see their carefully cultivated demographic of rich white bros to succeed. An actual patriot would stand for the unifying messages that Biden relayed and clap and agree that together we can all, get through all of the bullshit that we're getting right now, or we're having go on in our country right now. But the overwhelming majority of Republicans in Congress did not stand and applaud those very good messages. Suggesting that they are not really patriots in this sense, because like I said, somebody that actually cares about the American public or their country, or representing their country or doing the job that they were elected to do, would stand for those kind of messages. They seem to only care about advancing their own agendas instead of putting America first, which is contrary to what they're always fucking talking about. So that's it for Mike Johnson and his uncomfortable stare. Next up is this fuck. White Christian nationalist Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, seen here having a wet dream about Donald Trump using his balls like a speed bag, recently described Trump as, quote, fucking hot, and, quote, Aryan Chad, Hitler-esque, Caesar-esque, Mussolini moment, whatever in the fuck that is, and Napoleon. Like, he literally said Napoleon, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Nick? This is just really weird and disgusting, to be honest. This is the crowd that Trump is pandering to. So if he wins in the coming election, hope everyone's prepared to cry, Wolverines! I wonder if you get that. Put an emoji in the chat or something like that. I don't know. Let me know if you got that particular reference. Nick Fuentes also said he'd, quote, die for the man Trump, and then continued to re-emphasize how much he wanted to actually give his life for Trump. Nick has a serious problem, and I feel like that problem is the Trump deepfake porn. Not to kink shame. And that's it for Nick Fuentes. And then finally, we have another Christian fascist, Christian nationalist sort of warning or update here. I like keeping everybody apprised to when dipshit Republicans pretty much out themselves as being either Christian nationalists, Christian fascists, or just people that are in favor of a theocracy, installing a theocracy here, a Gilead, if you will. Texas State Representative Matt Schaefer, remember that name, Matt Schaefer, he's seen here watching young rape girls die because he's denying them the ability to get an abortion that they sorely need, thinks that there is a biblical mandate for Christians to solely control the government and outlaw abortion in the name of, quote, pure religion. Not sure what in the fuck that means, but something tells me that it's whatever version of Christianity that Matt has in his own head. He has also claimed that every elected official is required to worship God, saying, quote, there's only two courses. There's obedience or rebellion. Those are really the only two options for any elected official, end quote. I know we can't require tests for people that, get elected or to be in the running to be elected, but I kind of think that knowing the Constitution a little bit is warranted in this case, because there's a clear violation of the First Amendment in this particular statement uttered by a Texas state representative. Dipshits like this guy have the reading comprehension of a sentient potato. You can literally just read the words of the First Amendment and to him, and he will repeat whatever he wants it to say rather than what it actually says. Christian nationalists only want to control everyone else and force everyone else to follow their particular brand of Christianity, which is not everybody's brand of Christianity, mind you. If we allow this to continue, the USA will literally turn into Gilead. And Margaret Atwood is probably sitting there thinking, look, guys, this was a warning, not a manual. Okay? I was not writing like how to take over America and subjugate women and turn them into breeding machines. Like that was not the purpose of what's the show? Handmaid's Tale. That's not that wasn't it wasn't meant to be a guide as to how to do this. It's like, hey, this shit's bad and it's coming, because she could see the writing on the wall there. Anyways, that's going to be it for the news tonight. I hope that you enjoyed it. I would also love to know what you guys thought down in the comments below. So do leave me a comment about each of these stories tonight. Either Mike Johnson as well as all the other Republicans in Congress making fools of themselves. Or what about these fascist fantasies that Nick Fuentes has? Mainly about Trump using his balls as a speed bag. You know, that's that thing that hangs from the ceiling that looks like that little dangly thing in the back of your throat, and you're like, yep, that's what Nick Fuentes. I mean, I guess we can't say that's what he wants. I'm just saying we can't know that that's not what he wants. And then biblical mandates. What do you think about those? Let me know in the comments below. All right, now it's on to comments, which we don't have a transitionary thing for yet, but I will get one made one day. Comments of the day. Prepare to face palm yourself in the next week. Fuck myself up on that one. Yeah, I know. Like, seriously, fuck me and my out-of-tune ukulele. It's the point of the bit to not be in tune, by the way. Just saying, okay? All right, first up is this dipshit tweet, which was something that I mentioned in the news section tonight. Chris W. Kobach, or Kobach? Kobach? Anyways, Biden wants to replace the lead pipes. Anybody right now would be like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Replace the lead pipes. This is only a good thing. Lead is a toxin, as it says right there in the context right there. It's a neurotoxin. It causes a lot of problems, and if you drink water that's laced with lead, you're liable to have learning disabilities and have other neurological issues. In fact, what? Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, and there was another super chat that I also... Okay. So let me go ahead and handle these real quick. We've got Platonic Color who says, I don't know what y'all are talking about. That ukulele playing is great, but I really think it'd be better if you had a banjolele. All right, I'll look that up. Doubtful Forms says, just saw AI Trump admit to ED. Priceless. Nice. Daniel M says, I still haven't gotten over when David sang poopy butt science. I can just see it now. Poopy butt science. We're gonna explain stuff really, really wrong. No wordy dirties. That's a clean version. So can you, okay, so this is where I was going with that. There's actually been studies that have been done on communities that are surrounding like NASCAR raceways. And because NASCAR was allowed to use leaded gasoline up until like the 90s or something, or maybe it was the 2000s actually. They were still allowed to use leaded gasoline. And so what they found was that the fact that they were still using leaded gasoline in these areas was causing a decline in the education of children in the area. Like the children were developing more learning disabilities due to the added lead in the environment caused by the raceway. And so, or the racetrack. And so there's verifiable scientific evidence that this is bad for American, well, not just American, but all communities, human populations. This is bad. Cue Chris here. He failed to mention that the unfunded mandate sets an almost impossible timeline, will cost billions, infringe on the rights of the states and their residents, all for the benefits that may be entirely speculative. No, Chris, this is not speculation. This is hard fucking factual science. It's hard science here. This is something that's been known for a long time. This isn't something that scientists just pulled out of their ass or anything like that. In fact, there were plenty of companies, like gas companies, that put a lot of money into discrediting the idea that lead affects people because they didn't want to have to change their formula and make it more expensive to make gas or whatever in the fuck. And so, like, they fought against it, but they eventually pulled the sticks out of their ass and realized how bad it was. And so the government passed laws that required them not to use lead in gas. So this is not something that's speculative. This is something that's hard science. And to say that like this investment into the American community in general to protect the American citizens infringes on their rights? What are you even fucking talking about, you goddamn dipshit? Like, the rights of states and their residents? And infringe on the rights of states? Fucking how? Because you can't subject poor communities to learning disabilities? Is that what the problem is? Like, do you think that he's like, oh, shucks, now we can't be all smarty pant no more because everybody's going to be able to have good education because they won't have learning disabilities no more? Like, I'm not saying that's what he's saying, but I kind of feel like the insinuation here is that, well, you know, I can afford to buy fucking Fuji water every morning, and I can definitely afford to especially pay for like filtered water, put filters on everything and whatever, live in good areas that aren't that don't have water fed to them by lead pipes. And I want to keep that pretty big divide there because that keeps me at the top. Whereas if we provide everybody with clean drinking water, well then that equalizes shit. I'm not saying that he's saying that, but it kind of seems like it might lead in that direction. Fun fact here, in Rome, there's actually an entire system where water just freely flows, like throughout the city from certain fountains. And but I seriously doubt there's any lead in them. I don't think they're even carried by lead pipes. And they regularly, like on a, like every 3 months or something like that, like they test the water purity, and like it's like good fucking water. I've drank out of those water fountains, like just it's awesome. It is fantastic. And I think it's sad that we have people in government that are like, but we don't want to replace lead pipes. It's just so fucking anyway. I've wasted enough time on this asshole. Next up is Jerry Valpando from Facebook, who says, "Wow, what baffles the mind is that how could it be that down through years since the days of Christ, not one race or religion has ever disputed the existence of Jesus. The only argument of discussion is whether or not he was the Son of God." You know, honestly, I don't understand the appeal of this, like the appeal to magic, because I feel like that's what the thing is. It's like nobody has questioned whether or not Jesus existed. We really want to know if he's the Son of God. And I feel like that's saying, I don't care how like illusionists started out or magicians started out being like entertainment and all that, how they developed over time. I just really want to know if he's actually magically pulling a rabbit out of a fucking hat. Like, which one is more interesting to discuss here? Because I can guarantee you the fact that we don't have any evidence for magic means that there's not really a magical rabbit being pulled out of a hat. How the fucker's doing it, and also explaining the history of magic, that right there, or illusionists, I should say, not magic, but illusionists, as entertainment, I feel like that is far more interesting than like discussing whether or not the rabbit was magically pulled out of a hat for real. But in any case, it doesn't matter if anybody had questioned the historicity of Jesus before. In fact, the whole historical nature of Jesus didn't really matter to the initial Christians. It's only later Christians that developed those stories. That's when it started to matter to the Christian community. And even then, the earliest Christian fathers that we have, like in an organized Christian faith, they didn't really care about like the historical versions of Jesus or like his birth or anything like that. They just liked the stories. The stories made them feel good, and so that verified the stories for them. So they had no issue with just accepting the stories for what they were. All right, that's it for that one. And next comment. So, you acknowledge God by blaming God? No. Within the context of an apologist or a Christian's arguments for God or reasons why they believe in a God and the problems that I have with the Bible story, I'm talking about how that God doesn't make sense and how that God doesn't exist. So I'm not blaming God and therefore acknowledging God. I'm saying that your bullshit story doesn't make sense because it contradicts itself, and God's nature is contradictory to this picture that people have painted as being some omnibenevolent, all-powerful being. Like, I'm saying that the story in your theology is internally inconsistent. That's not an acknowledgement of your God. That's saying that you're not making sense, motherfucker. And then finally, we got Paul Thompson. Maybe it's finally. No, maybe we got one more. I'm not sure. Paul Thompson says, Godless engineer, I have to disagree. I actually find that asking people for their pronouns in a one-on-one conversation is a red flag. What? Why would that be a red flag? Like, if I want to properly address you, like, I feel like that would be a pertinent thing to know. Like, this was said on a call-in show of mine where I wanted to be very polite and just right off the bat ask people, well, what are your pronouns? That's the standard operating procedure over on the line. And so I feel like it's a really good policy, so I employed it on my channel. And I don't understand why that would be like a red flag. Like asking somebody what their pronouns are when it's a call-in show. I don't know you. I can't see you or anything like that. So like just asking what pronouns you want me to use or other people to use. Really, it's not for me to use because I'm not going to be talking to you as if you're not there, right? It's really for other people to use in the comments because, you know, I don't want a comment section that's full of, you know, misgendering somebody that I'm talking to and we're having a lovely conversation with, or even if we're not having a lovely conversation. So, I mean, this just literally makes no sense for it to be a red flag. You don't need their pronouns while talking to them because you're only going to use the pronoun you during your conversation. You're just virtue signaling at that point. Well, true. I mean, I wasn't going to be using their pronouns. But if after I hung up and I referenced them later, I would probably use it then. People in the comments section, like I said, would probably use the pronouns that are given. Like, I mean, just knowing a person's pronouns seems to be just appropriate. That way you're not in a situation where you're misgendering somebody accidentally. Like, this just seems really stupid and fucking petty to me. And then finally, from God's Word, from Saving Grace Facebook page over there on the Facebooks, says, for a community of folks who don't believe there is a God, you sure do spend a lot of time and energy talking about him. It's all you people ever talk about. You're not atheists. You're just haters. So I talk a lot about God and religion, religious history, Christian origins, and all that kind of stuff, because that is literally what my page is about. Like, my page has always been about politics, religion, and atheism. Those things. So, I mean, me talking about those things is just pretty much what you should do if you're running a page that's specifically targeting a single community or niche. niche. So, I mean, that's just good operating procedure right there. Like if whenever I post something like on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel that doesn't exactly fit in with the demographic and the vertical that I've targeted, people aren't going to watch it. They're not going to care. So I talk about God a lot because God is one of the most popular topics out there right now, especially with Christian nationalism running rampant, with just people in general always questioning like religious ideals, religious theology, and all that kind of stuff. So my focus on the religious topic in no way indicates that I hate God or that I'm just a hater. I'm very interested in religion, religious history, and how all of that mixes with our daily lives. This just seems like them making up a reason for why I'm a hater and assigning some kind of intent to what I'm doing that they can't possibly know. So anyways, that's going to be it for the comments tonight, and we are about to move on to the actual response video. So I would really love to hear what y'all's thoughts are on these comments tonight. Also, if you want to help us donate to the Equal something initiative, I can't remember that. We're going to be donating to that particular legal organization that helps get wrongfully convicted people out of prison. So if you want to help us with that, consider sending a super chat like many people have already done, which I'm going to check right now to see if there's any that I missed. Doubtful Form says that didn't Rome fall due to lead pipes? I don't think so exactly. I believe Rome fell because it was spread too far and they couldn't get messages sent quick enough, and local governing authorities just in general started to assume control over their areas, and once communication fell apart, so did the rest of the Roman Empire. I mean, huh? I mean, for whatever reason right now, my mic is like really low, but I mean, I've got it pumped up like about as much as I can pump it up. Yeah. I pumped it up about a decimal more. I'm peeking into the yellow now a little bit. Huh? What did I say? Decibel. I meant decibel. But anyways, all right. So y'all ready to get to the actual video tonight, which I don't actually have it pulled up. Hold on.
Anti-theists are
Anti-theists. Okay. See, I'm gonna have to position it once we get over there. Hey, let's head on over to the review portion of this live stream. There we go. All right, come on, VLC, load up. There we go. Okay, everything's looking fabulous on both screens. It's looking good, huh? You had really good suggestions there, hon. Thank you so much for helping me with that. All right, so we have a guy here tonight who is going to be discussing what to do when atheists attack. And so he's going to spend a little bit of time talking about atheists and how we describe our own position, as well as what he suggests Christians do if they get, quote unquote, attacked by atheists. I'm going to take some of my premium Dickel here. We are not sponsored by Dickel tonight. Gotta love that Dickel. Anyways, let's get to the video. Although, shit, for some reason the VLC on this is just a little bit fucked up. Okay, there we go. It's looking good now. Okay. Cue it up.
Anti-theists or new atheists are not your grandpa's atheists. They've changed tactics and can be really aggressive, especially online. So how do you talk with someone who seems bent on hating you and your beliefs?
Okay, first of all, like I don't hate Christian people like as a demographic. Like Christians in general, I don't hate. Like if I hate somebody, I hate that particular person. If religion factors into that, it's not because they're Christian, it's because of what they're doing with their faith. It's because they're an asshole and they're using their religion to continue to be an asshole. That's what's happening here. So I don't hate somebody just because they're a Christian, but also like hating their faith. That seems very generalized here because it's not that I hate faith. I mean, I don't like, people, not people, but I don't like the faith idea in general. Like, I feel more secure in things that I can know to be true. I mean, that's not to say I don't have faith in certain things, but I would also describe that faith as more of a blind faith. Like I have faith in this, not because, maybe I don't have prior evidence to suggest it, but it's like I can't know something. Like, for instance, I have prior evidence that my car is going to start fine in the morning. But do I know that my car is going to start fine in the morning? No. It could decide to crap out. The computer chip could get fried in the middle of the night. Freak storm comes through. Lightning strikes at the exact right angle and strikes my car and fucking fries it. Nearly burns the house down. That's not gonna happen. But I'm just saying that, like, I don't know what's going to happen. So, I mean, I guess that's me employing a kind of blind faith that, I'm not sitting here preparing for, like a tow truck in the morning or something like that. Like I have, I guess you could say, blind faith about that. But I also feel like a lot of Christians out there, they like to say that their faith is based on evidence. But I would say that they are convinced by certain pieces of evidence, but I can't say that they actually know that God is real. They describe themselves as knowing, but I feel like there are different definitions of knowledge that's going on there. Like, what does it mean to know something? I feel like Christians employ a different and more lax definition of knowing or knowledge than, other reasonable people do.
New atheism is a movement born out of classical atheism. In Christian circles, we can often mistakenly think that it's only Christianity that has strengthened or shifted the defense of its ideology over the years.
You see, that would just be a dipshit thing to like even think. Like even if atheism wasn't like more popular now than, it was 20, 30 years ago, describing it as if like new atheism is born out of classical atheism, I feel like we're talking about two different groups of people, so two different demographics. Like classical atheists, I guess, is what he's talking about here would be more philosophically based. Like if we're talking about philosophy classes and everything like that, and then the quote unquote new atheists are a more colloquial like sense, a wider demographic of people that identify as not believing in a God. And so you could describe that in several different ways. Like there are a lot of people out there that say they lack a belief in a God. I know that there's some issues surrounding the phrasing of this, but I typically prefer to go with the phrasing, I don't believe in God. And so like, that's not me making a claim that God doesn't exist, but it's also not, providing the ambiguity that something like I lack a belief in God. And also baked into my phrasing there is this sense that you have to have the ability to believe in God first in order to be considered part of that particular demographic or that particular label. So those are things to keep in mind as we move forward here. I feel like this guy is definitely pushing a narrative, a particular narrative of like, oh, atheists are the aggressors here. Atheists are the assholes. And he's going to be coming at it as if, the two sides are in a lot more opposition than we actually are. Like, we're obviously in opposition, like religious people are in opposition to atheists because we disagree on this one particular thing. But as far as atheists being the aggressors all the time, I feel like is a misrepresentation, because a lot of times atheists are just trying to live their fucking lives, be good people, be productive members of society, and then fucking boom, Christians come in and it's like, hey, you got to believe what I do. And then atheists are like, no, and here are the reasons why I don't. And they're like, stop persecuting me. Hurry, get the police. Wee-woo, wee-woo, wee-woo. Police, arrest him. I did use the wee-woos.
Atheism has done the same thing, and New Atheism is just the latest school of thought for those looking to win the age-old debate versus Christianity.
This is like it's the new version. Like, it's not our atheist arguments haven't changed. Like, the basic atheist argument is there's no evidence to believe in God, or that I should believe in God. Or if you're a harder atheist, which meaning like more Gnostic, like you claim to know whether or not God exists, then you would come at it like, oh, well, there's no evidence that proves God exists, therefore God doesn't exist. And I can kind of agree with that line of logic there, because like, for instance, leprechauns don't exist. Like, we don't have any evidence that leprechauns do exist. We have legends and fairy tales and all this other stuff. We don't actually have evidence. So, like, the fact that there is no evidence doesn't ultimately prove that leprechauns don't exist or can't exist. But for all intents and purposes, they don't exist. There are rainbows, is what Casey's making an argument here for leprechauns. There are rainbows, therefore there are leprechauns. Did you? If there weren't leprechauns, who would bring you Lucky Charms? Therefore, leprechauns exist. I get you. You saw them on Charmed, and he said, "Squiggly wiggly dick," and they made things happen. And they had to hold a pail of gold, like a bucket of gold, as they did Squiggly wiggly dicks. The shillelagh, yeah, they used the shillelagh, right? And then went squiggly wiggly dick, and it did the dickle.
It called the rainbow so they could travel.
Yeah, did you know that rainbows are not they're not the half arcs that we see them as. They're actually full cones, and we just see. Imagine like a 3D like cone, right? And we're just seeing the bottom edge of it. And so, like, if you go up high enough, you can actually
Jesus
see
loves the
entire
little
thing.
children, maybe a little too much.
Laurel Sagan says, donating to GE, I guess that makes me a bad person. Obviously, you're the worst person. You're the shittiest person on YouTube right now. That's what I'm saying. Thanks, Aaron Cuddy. Sorry. Anyways, thank you so much there, Laurel. But in any case, so I can agree with the argument of there's no evidence, so therefore God doesn't exist. For all intents and purposes, God does not exist. That's why I'm fine with the phrase God does not exist. Because until you can provide evidence that sufficiently proves it, then it's effectively the same thing as, like, there's no evidence for God, so there's no reason to believe it. If there's no reason to believe it, then, it probably doesn't exist. And so that's, I mean, there's a lot of nuance to go in with all of this, and we're going to get to a little bit of that nuance here in a minute.
The two ways that New Atheism differs from classic atheism are in its conversation style and even the very claim they make.
The torture, the violence, the cruelty. Heaven watches this going on with perfect insouciance. And something like 2,000 to 3,000 years ago decides, right, we have to intervene now. What about having somebody tortured to death in an obscure part of the Middle East? That ought to cure it.
A New Atheist.
All right, so hold on. Before we move on from the Hitchens thing, I feel like that is like right up my alley as far as what I guess appeals to me, not only because of the sarcastic nature that Hitchens always delivers his speeches with, but also because of the fact that it really puts it into perspective there, how ridiculous the notion is of the story in the Bible. And this is very specifically an argument about Christianity. And I would consider myself to actually be in the harder atheist camp, or what this guy's calling classical atheism. And classical atheism, as the way that this guy is describing it, is actually saying that, well, God definitely doesn't exist, right? Like hardline statement that you then have to defend. I would say that I totally agree that I would have to defend the statement that the Christian God does not exist, full stop. And I can do that in a number of ways, and I've done that in a number of ways here on the channel. A lot of it doesn't make sense. Nothing is actually a historical record as far as Christianity goes. The entire concept is magical in the first place, so we haven't proven magic exists at all. So right off the bat, it starts off from a bad foot. But I would consider myself, getting back to the point, I consider myself a hard atheist when it comes to specific definitions of God, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism in general. That would be the Abrahamic faith, which would include all three of those. And other religious faiths that we have specific definitions for God. I consider myself a hard atheist, Gnostic atheist, or what he's calling a classical atheist on these gods. But as far as a very deistic version of God, or the general idea of a supernatural deity, I just simply don't know. Like, there could be some deity out there, or some entity out there that we would describe as a deity that could exist, that started our universe and then just fucked off. Like, he went off to another part of wherever in the fuck that exists out there. That could have happened. I think it's very unlikely that it happened, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. So I remain agnostic on that particular position. But I still maintain that I'm an atheist because I'm not convinced that it happened. Like, I don't believe that it happened. And so I don't believe that that entity exists. So I remain an agnostic atheist on that position. But I'm an agnostic atheist on this guy's religion and on any other religion that we have specific definitions for.
Atheists will typically ask you for proof or evidence of your belief, and then without even listening, reject it. Already they
Yeah, that's Casey just repeated him without even listening. I feel like I show that I'm actively listening to it. Just because somebody doesn't accept your position doesn't mean they're not listening. Now, if somebody is like, if you ask somebody to steelman your position about whatever argument that you're making, if you're asked to steelman it and then you just say something that doesn't even represent like what the person is arguing, then yes, you're not listening to the person's argument, or maybe you just don't understand. Those are the possibilities there. And so then you would need to clarify it and everything like that. But I think that just representing atheists as just not even listening to religious people, I feel is totally ignoring how we're actually engaging with religious people, because religious people expect something kind of like, an atheist comes up and is like, hey, where's your evidence for God? And the Christian's like, well, I have a lot of evidence for God. Like, I had this personal experience one time where God, totally helped me find my keys. And they were in the couch. I mean, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, sometimes there are other places, but they were in the couch this time. And so God helped me, find them. Like, and then atheists would be like, I'm sorry, that's not proof of your God. And I feel like this guy then continues the conversation with, well, you're just not fucking listening. I don't have a hat. To throw. Here, let me, it's like, I don't need to throw this. Yeah, I'll just pantomime it like, fuck. You're not listening to me. I said that magic exists and God magically helped me find my keys in the couch. Why aren't you listening to me? And at that point, you just need to walk away from the person. however they react, but they essentially communicate the same message, because obviously they aren't listening to you. Just like this guy is projecting here. He's projecting that, well, atheists just aren't listening to me, when in reality, I feel like he's not actually listening to the atheist, because atheists would just be like, I'm sorry, that doesn't convince me. Like, this isn't evidence. This evidence doesn't support your position. And so instead of accepting that criticism and coming up with a better reason that, I don't think exists, but instead of doing all that and coming up with a better reason, he's just like, well, you're just not listening to me. You're bound and determined not to listen to me. Fuck you, atheists.
Got us hooked. I tried to answer faithfully. I tried to be thorough and construct a good argument spoken from a position of truth and love. And now I'm just being unceremoniously dismissed?
Okay, so I get that all of those things factor into it. Like, I understand that Christians want to make arguments from a place of love at times. Other times it's definitely from a place of being a dick. Like, that's just simple fact right there. Like, they want to be a dick, or they are a dick, and so they present it in dickish ways. But I get that the demographic, or at least the audience that he's trying to reach right here, I totally agree that they are trying to reach people, or they are talking to people with love and sincerity and genuinely care about the other person. So they're trying to convince them of this position. But just because somebody rejects your evidence, or somebody's not convinced by your evidence, doesn't mean that they're not listening to you. And it doesn't mean that you have to do this like, well, I guess you just don't want to believe. Like, instead of doing all of that, accept that, this is somebody that's just not going to drop everything and believe what you say just because you're like, but magic be real. I feel like just portraying us as not being convinced by obviously poor arguments as some kind of like bad thing. I feel like that's a bit unwarranted here. And it's like the whole emotional aspect to this. I feel like he's trying to appeal to an emotional fallacy in a certain kind of way, because like he's portraying the Christian believer as like, oh, well, you told them your truth with love and honesty and they just rejected you. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you make bad arguments. It doesn't matter how you feel about your arguments. It doesn't matter how you feel about your faith. For a lot of atheists, it's purely just about the evidence and whether or not it supports your conclusion. And if you're coming to me with just, well, I feel it deep down in my heart of hearts, my first reaction is going to be, what the fuck is heart of hearts? You have one heart, motherfucker, and it's got, 3 valves or whatever? Like, that's it. There's no heart of hearts there. It's not like a fucking Russian doll where there's a heart inside of a heart and then there's an even smaller heart inside of that heart. Like, what's contained in the smallest version of your heart there, bud? Does it work like the Grinch at Christmas?
If this happens to you, you might find yourself feeling very emotional. You were really hoping to be taken seriously. You were hoping to be a light to the person asking you a question about the hope that lies within you. Instead, you feel tricked, made to feel a little bit dumb.
I'm sorry, but if you make your argument and then you feel dumb for making your argument, then, I mean, I feel like that's on you. I mean, I'm speaking,
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
I love that. I just realized that the notifications are not on over here, so I'm just going to fix that real quick. Platonic Cuddler says, Heart of Hearts. I prefer the heart of the cards. You mean like playing cards? Because I've been doing that a lot lately. Like, I've been playing Texas Hold'em. But in any case, fuck, I forgot what. Oh, if you're, I'm speaking from a position where I felt stupid for like when I had to explain why I believed in God, or whenever I had to like do something because of my faith. Like I actively felt stupid and I felt bad about myself for that. And if you're in that position, then I feel like you need to maybe reconsider what you believe and why you believe it. Now, if you're in a conversation with somebody that's just there for the dumpster fire, is there to make themselves feel better by making yourself feel shitty, then I would just leave the conversation. Like, that's obviously an asshole person, and you don't need to be in it. And I mean, as an atheist, I've been in plenty of those conversations with other atheists that just want to shit on the other person so that they can feel better. That says more about them than it does about you. And so you shouldn't allow yourself to feel bad because of, whatever, on either side of it, if the other party is just trying to make themselves better by making yourself feel worse. So just leave that conversation. That person does not need to be in your life. Cut toxic people out of your life. That would be a toxic person. For either atheists or Christians or any other religious person out there, I would give that same advice to, because you don't need them in your life. But if your arguments themselves make you feel bad or stupid like they did me, then you should seriously reconsider, your faith. Maybe not your faith, but the reasons why you believe in the things that you do. And, I feel like you can either shore up your argument so that you no longer feel stupid, and that's really going to help your own mental health, or it could lead you in a better direction. That doesn't mean like that I think atheism is a better direction. I'm speaking very generally here. I think that if it leads you in a better direction that makes you feel better mentally, then more power to you. Whether you're Christian or an atheist, more power to you for being better, like mentally healthy wise, mental health wise. I'm never going to shit on somebody for doing something for their own mental health. And if you need that, whichever way, do it. But this is not like medical advice at all. I'm just speaking as a patient myself. I was diagnosed with clinical depression long ago. So just speaking from my own experiences in life. And so I don't think that if the emotional game that this guy is trying to play with his Christian audience should really factor into your final decision on, whether or not the evidence is good or what you should do about somebody that doesn't accept whatever argument you're making. You have to come to grips with the fact that there are going to be people that are not going to be convinced by your argument. You have to come to grips with that. Whether that be an atheist making an argument or a Christian making an argument, they are not going to be convinced. Other people, more than likely, are not going to be convinced. The only person that can convince you into a position is yourself, because you can't control what convinces you. Something is convincing to you, but you don't get to select what is convincing.
This is not the best place to carry on the discussion from, but it's just what they were hoping for. If you get angry, you get flustered. If you get flustered, your arguments appear weak, and they'll go ahead and start their victory lap, because even though they haven't won any intellectual debate, they've accomplished their real goal of knocking you off your feet.
I mean, my goal in a conversation, at least, is not to knock somebody off their feet, make them look bad or anything like that. My goal in a conversation is to actually have a good conversation. Like if this guy, after seeing the video here, which I don't know if he's watching or anything like that, but this guy, if he were to, message me and ask for a conversation, I feel like I've more than proven that I will just have a reasonable conversation with him. It won't be a situation where I'm trying to knock him off his feet with a fucking cannon like it's, 1936 over here. A debate bro?
You gotta be a debate bro.
Oh, I have to be a debate bro.
Yeah, because you're an atheist, so you're a debate bro.
I'm a debate bro. Your faith is stupid. Get shit on, mother Christer. Yeah. But I don't think that anybody should have that particular goal whenever they're in a conversation with somebody. Like, if you're in a conversation with somebody, look to have a productive conversation. If you're just there because you need to bolster your own ego, like the only way that you can feel good about yourself is by shitting on other people, you need to go to therapy for that. And if you're an atheist, there's plenty of therapy options out there that you don't necessarily have to pay for. Like, there's Recovering from Religion that can help you out. There's I'm blanking on the other institutions out there, but I know Recovering from Religion does a lot of work in this particular area. So, I mean, if you need that kind of help, please go and get that kind of help. But if anybody is ever in a conversation with somebody, don't sit there and just try to make yourself feel better by making them feel shitty. Like, that's not a good way to have a conversation. And I feel like this guy right here portraying all atheists as solely wanting to shit on Christians to make themselves feel better is a total misrepresentation of the atheist demographic. And it's generalizing all atheists into this one way. And he's prepping his audience to deal with atheists as if they are acting that way. And I got to tell you, not all atheists. I would say that there's a small segment of atheists out there that would probably act like this. I mean, just speaking for myself and getting sucked into a community that, regularly like to shit on people just to make themselves feel better. I mean, it really is sad, and it can lead you to some pretty bad places as far as like your own personality goes. And so I just want to warn people away from that.
In a desperate attempt, you might ask them, well, what's the proof for atheism? To which a new atheist would reply, I don't have to give you proof. I'm not making a claim. I'm just rejecting your claim.
I don't understand what the problem with this is, because I'm not making a claim as far as God in general goes, like this deistic version of God, or like a lot of apologists out there. A lot of apologists out there like to try and make arguments from God that don't necessarily, or arguments for God. A lot of apologists out there try to make arguments for God in a more generalized way that simply proves the existence of a God. Frank Turek, Dr. William Lane Craig, J. Warner Wallace, Lee Strobel, all of those guys, they like to make generalized arguments that are supposed to prove that God exists. And then, especially Frank Turek, he specifically says there are other arguments that we can use to prove that it is the Christian God. So they pretty clearly delineate what kinds of gods that they're talking about. And in the very generalized version of God, if you're making like the Kalam cosmological argument, I'm going to say that I'm rejecting your argument because your argument doesn't actually support the conclusion that in any God exists, let alone your God exists. So I don't see how this is unreasonable. I mean, he literally just said or described a reasonable situation, and then in a way that is just portraying it as ridiculous. Like, oh, they're ridiculous for saying this. Or at least that's the feeling that I get off this. But I know I interrupted him in the middle of his argument.
Wow. What a beautifully constructed discussion. A stance without a stance. A place that you can continually attack from, but can never be attacked at.
That's not exactly true. I mean, you could definitely attack that position. Like, you could claim that I'm being irrational in rejecting the claim, or you can claim that I'm wrong and that your argument doesn't support your conclusion. Which we got a super chat over there on the vertical stream from Polly Pockets saying, is it a good idea to bring other gods in? I like to say, do you believe in Hera? If not, prove Hera doesn't exist. I feel like that's a powerful rhetorical device to get them to critically think about their faith in contrast to other beliefs. And that's, Polly, I don't know if you've been watching a lot of street epistemology. Maybe you have, because that's a very good and that's a very efficient way to get to critically engage in someone's belief without directly saying, well, that's all bullshit. Like, somebody says, well, why don't you believe in God? Everybody believes in God. prove that God doesn't exist. And it's like, well, why don't you believe in Hera? Prove Hera doesn't exist. It really puts it into light, like how similar the argument is to that can be made for other gods. And so I think it's very powerful I think it's a very powerful rhetorical device, and I've definitely used it in the past, and I would probably continue to use it. I've even used it like on Mormon missionaries. I remember one time I got Mormon missionaries to come back to my house like 3 times. On one of the times, I actually asked the guy to differentiate his belief from like Muslims. Like, well, I know you had this particular experience. Muslims claim to have the exact same experience, but it's their God that it proves. How do you differentiate those two? And they did not have a good explanation for that. And so I feel like it's very telling whenever you use that kind of rhetorical rhetorical device in a conversation.
You see, someone claiming to be an atheist used to mean that they actively believed there was no God. Now, under new atheism, it means that they just lack belief in God.
Well, that's not a new atheism thing. Like not believing in a God or lack of belief, which I don't use. I don't use lack of belief because it's been so misunderstood or interpreted in different ways that make it an inefficient way in order to communicate what you're actually trying to say. And what you're trying to say is that you just simply don't believe in a God. And I don't think that that's actually changed. I think that what we're talking about are 2 different contexts in which it's being brought up, because there's the philosophical context, which primarily uses hard atheism. And then there's a more colloquial version that uses the more soft atheism, which would be this, I don't believe in a God. Like, I don't know, but I don't believe, is kind of the way that the colloquial use of atheism is, or the colloquial position is. So there is a stark difference between a philosophical version of atheism and a more generalized, I guess, version, or a more popular version of atheism that most people adhere to. And using the atheist label perfectly describes what they're trying to tell you about themselves, that they don't believe in a God. Same way with the harder atheists or the philosophical atheists, they don't believe in a God either, but they're additionally making the claim that God definitely does not exist. And that would be a claim that you have to defend. Now, I do take on that mantle for specific definitions, like I said at the beginning of this review. For the position that Yahweh exists, I definitely say that God does not exist, or at least Yahweh does not exist. And I can support that position with evidence. I make arguments for it, and I do think that I shoulder the burden of proof for that argument. So we're talking about 2 different things here.
They don't hold an active belief. They're echoing Christopher Hitchens, who said, now atheism is rejecting that a certain proposition is true and is not asserting that a certain proposition is false.
Right. So, I mean, most atheists that you're going to encounter, unless they're like a philosopher or they're, just in general a hard atheist, because those do exist out there, I feel like that definitely describes a majority of atheists out there. And say, like, what else? Like, I'm just kind of curious, and I've never gotten a good answer for this. What would you call somebody that doesn't believe in either your God or any God at all? What would you call that person? I mean, the only thing that I can come up with is atheist, because we're talking about belief. We're not talking about knowledge, whether or not I know that this God does or does not exist. That's why I call myself a Gnostic atheist when it comes to like Yahweh. And then I call myself an agnostic atheist when it comes to general ideas about God. Agnostic atheists don't know whether or not a God exists out there somewhere in the ether. But they don't believe in a God. So that's the thing with agnostic atheism. Gnostic atheism says, well, I know that God doesn't exist, and I don't believe in that God or any gods. I don't believe in any gods. So it's like a combination of the two. That would be Gnostic atheism, because we're using these words to differentiate belief and knowledge. Because you can believe something without having the knowledge that it's true. Like you can believe something to be true without having the knowledge that it is true. And so I feel like the best way to do this is to separate out those two ideas, knowledge and belief. I mean, ideally, knowledge should inform belief, but knowledge does not always inform belief. And so that's why the distinction needs to be made.
Tricky wordplay. But is this accurate? Are new atheists really not even making a claim? Because if they're not making a claim to be refuted, then they're just explaining to you what they don't think, which, who cares?
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Dr. Don Hogg, xenophobia something or another, says if your heart atheism lasts more than 4 years, call a doctor. Gotta take that Viagra-thist. But it is, as far as what he's saying here, I feel like while atheists in a general sense do not make positive claims about God, we do make positive claims about the arguments used to defend God. So like you could definitely challenge our positive claims about your argument. You could challenge our positive claim about your argument not supporting your conclusion. You could challenge that. That is something that we would have to defend. And that's something that all atheists have to defend. Like, you know, if you're going to say, well, this argument doesn't support the conclusion, it's like, well, why? And then the atheist can explain why it doesn't. Like the Kalam cosmological argument, just for example. If you don't know, the Kalam cosmological argument is a very simple argument that says everything begins to exist. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe began to exist, right? Where a lot of religious apologists jump to is that God is the reason for the universe existing, whereas we do have natural explanations for it. So if I were to be like, oh, well, that doesn't actually prove your conclusion there, that God exists, so you'll need a better argument. And then, you know, they would come back with, well, why doesn't it? You need to support your, disagreement with the fact that it supports a conclusion. And then you go through and say, well, just because the universe had a beginning does not necessarily correlate to God existing. There could be a natural beginning to the universe. We have the Big Bang theory. And there's also some quantum physics stuff that go into why the inflation of the universe happened. And so that being a very natural explanation means that we don't need God, and therefore your argument doesn't rule that out as a possibility, so it doesn't support the conclusion. So we are doing exactly what he's complaining about us not doing. We are defending our positions on the shitty arguments that they give us. The defense is explaining to them why their arguments don't support their conclusion.
You know what else lacks belief in God? Trees, rocks, a piece of bread, buttered on both sides, lightly toasted, cheese in between, maybe pepper jack.
He's having sexual fantasies about a grilled cheese. Yeah. I mean, I'm a sucker for good grilled cheese too, but I mean, I feel like this is bordering on inappropriate here. I mean, do you see the image? Like he's got it overlaid on top of himself. Like, I mean, I feel like this guy has violated a grilled cheese at one point in his life. Like he's looking at you dead serious with like dead serious eyes like, yeah. I mean, I'm going farther than that. I mean, he's looking at you like, yeah, I fucked a grilled cheese. Have you? Don't want to burn that dickle. But in any case, yeah, the uncomfortable part made me forget what in the fuck he's talking about here. Let me go back a little bit.
Rocks.
Oh yeah.
Rocks are atheists.
Yeah. Okay. So rocks are atheists. There's been a lot of hubbub in the past about this. I am not the kind of person that affirms that rocks are atheists, because my definition, I guess, of my position includes the ability of the object to rationally consider their position, at least enough to be able to say, I don't believe in a God. So anything that doesn't have that capability would not be considered an atheist. Like, for instance, dogs. I don't consider dogs atheists, even though dogs don't believe in God because they don't have a concept of God, unless, they consider you God, maybe. I don't know. But they don't have the kind of sentience that would allow them to seriously consider whether or not a God exists. Other great apes out there, I think that you could definitely say that they probably, could be considered atheists in certain aspects. Like in certain situations, you could probably consider them to be atheists, because I do think that they contain at least more of a sentience. And of course, there are other animals out there. So I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that rocks, trees, and grilled cheeses that you fucked late night one day in your basement are probably, shouldn't be considered atheists. Like, they definitely shouldn't be considered atheists because they don't have the ability to think. Although, I guess I can't say that you don't have some kind of sentient rock in your basement. But, I mean, barring that, yeah, rocks don't have the ability to seriously consider whether or not they believe in a God. So, yeah.
What about Brosephus' rock friend?
Brosephus has a rock friend?
Yeah.
Like a rock band or like an actual rock?
No, like a rock friend.
I haven't seen this rock. Hey, you want to go and hide his blanket later?
No.
He'll get all pissy about it.
No.
She keeps me in line.
Why are you so mean to each other?
Because I'm an atheist and I'm horrible.
Because you're so much alike.
Because we're so much alike?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're basically twins.
You're basically the same person.
I know.
Cheese in between, maybe pepper jack. And this isn't even a joke. Aaron Ra, famed atheist, actually said that rocks are atheists because they do not believe God exists.
Yeah, and I would agree that this is wrong. I mean, Aaron, which I actually am going to be on the line with Aaron later on this month. I think the 18th or something, maybe. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Sorry. On the 18th, I'm going to be on the line with Aaron Ra. And I mean, I do disagree with this notion that rocks are atheists. But I mean, that's because, and I know Aaron would clarify and say that this guy's misrepresenting him, which I think it is a bit of a misrepresentation, because what Aaron's trying to say here is that rocks don't believe in God, and that's just a statement of fact. And like, because he's not saying rocks are an atheist, right? Rocks are atheists, which I think is.
That is a stupid argument.
No, I agree. I was getting to that. I think that convolutes what he's trying to say, and I think that it only serves to stir the shit pot, because people can misinterpret that. They can they can come to wrong conclusions because of what he said. And I don't know. I personally would just not even engage in this particular argument here. But Aaron chooses to, and he has ways to defend it. Whether I agree with that or not. But just because one atheist, YouTube atheist, says rocks are atheist, doesn't mean that we all feel that way, and I don't think that it means that you should characterize all atheists this way. Ultimately, I feel like all this comes down to sort of a composition fallacy, because what this guy is doing is he's saying, well, there's this small segment of atheists that do these things. They're assholes. They want to shit on other people in order to make themselves feel better. And so, you're going to, like, those are the atheists that exist. Those are the new atheists that exist right now. And then he's extrapolating that to include all atheists in a generalized way. And I feel like that's just not the way that you should do anything. I don't think that you should generalize. I don't think that you should, take a small set and apply it to the larger set unless you have evidence that the larger set definitely follows what this smaller set is doing. He's not actually proving that here. He's just taking a small set and then saying the entire set acts this way.
It's not that they believe God doesn't exist. It's that they don't believe that God does exist. Not much difference, but enough for them to keep saying, nuh-uh. But if they're wrong, and new atheists are actually making a claim, what do we do with this?
Oh, well, I mean, in the context that me and this guy, like a conversation that me and this guy would have, I would definitely take on the mantle of a hard atheist, because I would say your God doesn't exist. If he wants me to prove that the idea of God, or that God in general can't exist or doesn't exist, he's going to be sorely let down, because I would say, well, I don't know that. But what I do know is that your God doesn't exist. And so that's where this whole composition fallacy thing comes in, because he's thinking that every atheist operates in the same way, and we don't.
Think about it this way. If I called a friend right now and said, I believe I'm being filmed on camera right now, she could say,
I don't believe you.
No, you don't understand. There's a camera in front of me and a whole team of media people. I mean, we've got a script, and I heard them say action.
Well, I'm not seeing any evidence you're bringing up. I lack belief in the fact that you're being filmed right now.
I mean, so just trying to be very objective about this and what he's actually proposing here. Like, you could totally be lying to your friend. Like, if your friend knows you to be a prankster or somebody that just lies, like a compulsive liar, then this is a very reasonable avenue to go down. What he's implying here is that he should implicitly be given trust. And maybe that exists between the person he's talking to on the phone and himself. That could be the case. But from an outside observer, from an objective standpoint, I don't see any reason why the person on the other end should inherently believe him. If they're friends, then sure, I think that I would afford my friends, given that all of my friends are YouTubers and, they regularly are in front of a camera. Now, I don't think that any of them really, I think maybe Apologia is probably the closest one to being, to having like a whole video crew, like doing shit. And that's just because of everybody that he knows. I feel like, that's the only person that could possibly have like a video crew there for. Otherwise, everybody else just does their own shit. Like, we're one-man shows. So, I mean, it seems to me, from an outside perspective, from an objective point of view, it's perfectly reasonable to be like, yeah, I don't believe that you're actually being filmed right now. Come on, dude. I know that you're sitting in your underwear in your mom's basement or whatever in the fuck. I mean, I get that lobbed at me all the time. So, I feel like I can make that argument. Yeah, we're on the second floor of our own house that we bought, bitch. But I'm just saying that, like, I feel like it's a totally reasonable position to not be convinced by this, especially if you don't know that the person does this for a job. This guy right here seems like, if he's got a whole crew behind him and everything like that, like he does this professionally in some kind of way. Like, he does this as a job, at least in this little skit that he's doing right here. And so it seems unreasonable for the person on the other end to not believe him, considering that he does this for a job. And if this person on the other end is like a bill collector or like somebody that he doesn't really know, then I wouldn't expect them to believe me. Like, if somebody calls me up middle of the day, like my doctor or something, is like, yeah, just standing here in front of a film crew and everything like that. We're recording a video for a bullshit thing on YouTube. So I got time. Like, I don't expect them to believe me necessarily. So, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like this is a totally reasonable position. He's treating it like you should, like it is ridiculous to question him. How dare we question the grilled cheese king?
Well, what evidence?
The grilled cheese fucker? She said it, not me. He's got cheese dick. Oh my god. That fucker's got cheese dick. Cheesy dickle. That's a different kind of premium dickle right there. It's flavored with nachos. Pepper jack. It's pepper jack dickle.
Do you have that I'm not being filmed right now?
I'm not saying you're not being filmed. I'm saying I lack belief that you're being filmed.
Right. I mean, I feel like that's a totally reasonable thing to say. Like, I'm not saying that you're not being filmed right now. I mean, I guess I don't know. I just don't believe you. Like, am I being weird here? Like, am I being a little fucked up? Because, like, this just seems like a reasonable thing. This whole argument's stupid? Thank you, honey.
Either she's presenting her opinion.
Huh? The fake phone call stupid?
Which seems to be willingly contrary to the evidence and doesn't really matter, or she's making a claim. It is either true or not true that I'm being filmed at this moment. If I claim it's true and someone else claims to disbelieve my claim, then they are believing the opposite claim. There
Hey,
isn't a
just
middle
wanted to
ground
say
on
you
truth.
don't have to be a good person to get into heaven. You just gotta suck my dick.
Kevin Beeler just wants everybody to know that you gotta suck Jesus' dick to get to heaven. Thank you, Kevin, for letting us know that message. Jesus' dick is cheesy.
False questions, even if we don't know the answers ourselves. Even though they've made it their mission to tear your faith down by tearing you down.
No, that is not the mission of any atheist. I can tell you right now, the mission of any atheist is just to fucking live as a good person. Well, I don't mean to speak for all atheists. There could be jackasses out there. Obviously, I'm not speaking about them. I'm just... There are definitely jackasses out there. I'm just saying that, like, he's generalizing the entire atheist demographic in this way. That, you know, we just want to attack Christians, tear down their faith, and that makes us feel better. And in that way, we fuck, you know, grilled cheeses. And that's just simply not, you know, what I think. And that's not what a lot of the atheists that I interact with think. Like, we don't think about attacking Christians. Typically, whenever we're responding to Christians or we talk to Christians or we're, you know, handling Christian arguments, it's not to make ourselves feel better or to tear the person down and therefore destroy their faith, you know, in the way that he's portraying it. I feel like a lot of us are just inundated with Christian rhetoric all the time in our daily lives. Atheists constantly have to deal with a lot of Christian bullshit, specifically Christian bullshit if you're in the USA, but religious bullshit in general. We are constantly having to deal with it. Like, I get work emails with fucking Bible verses on it. I get, you know, people that come and they drop off, like, I don't know, we had something dropped off to us by somebody in the neighborhood, and it's like, oh, do you want to come to church with us? And so we're in a position where we're like, oh, we don't go to church because we sacrifice small dogs in our basement. They know we don't have a basement. They don't have a basement. But I'm just saying, like, people have believed that we sacrifice small animals in our basement before. And it's just so fucking ridiculous. You don't know how ridiculous it is for, you know, somebody at work to come up and be like, you know, I just can't believe you're not Christian. Because, I mean, when I heard you were an atheist, I thought you sacrificed small animals down in your basement. Yeah, it's happened to KC multiple times. And it's just like, I'm just trying to be a good person over here. I'm just trying to live my life. And, like, I don't have to talk about religion at all. It's Christians that constantly force people to talk about fucking religion. Or fucking grilled cheese, either one.
By using these two tactics, we've got to remember we have one true enemy and he has blinded a lot of people.
We have one true magical enemy, and that magical enemy is the devil, Satan. He convinced a woman to eat a fruit salad when he was down there in the garden of that there Eden, and therefore now women have to give birth painfully.
Jesus loves the little children, maybe a little too much.
Yeah, Casey said, if you didn't hear her, she said that they have to painfully not give birth every month as well. And so, I mean, it's ridiculous the way that he's putting it right here. It really is. Trickster says, evil bands of roving atheists tearing down your God's belief. Can you just imagine the tree line, and you just see one person pop out and is like, I smell Christians. Let's go get them, boys! And then all of a sudden, all of the atheists come running out of the woods. Shit. Did
you break that one too?
No. Yeah. Anyways, atheists come running out of the tree lines, and they're like, fuck your faith! And, you know, they're running, and it's like one guy's got this whole fantasy about fucking Braveheart, and he's like, you may take our lives, but you'll never take our non-belief! And everything, and, you know, that's just how atheists spend our Saturdays. By the way, Skeptic Mafia is meeting this weekend to do exactly that. We're going to run out of the tree line and scream, fuck your faith! And everything. So, yeah. 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Central, Saturday. We're going to run out naked.
They will outright lie to build you into something you're not, just so they can tear you down. To these people who rage against you and seem angry at a God they claim they don't even believe exists, God has some choice words. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking and their foolish hearts were darkened. You need to know your stuff and be strong enough in your understanding of things to not let yourself get torn down. But you've still got to love them.
So for when atheists attack, you're just supposed to ignore them and love them anyways. I feel like that's his ultimate message here. Like, yeah, atheists are going to fuck with you. Atheists are going to make you feel stupid for believing in magic. Atheists are going to make you feel stupid for thinking that a Jew pinned to a stick in the 1st century absolves all bad shit or sins. Atheists are going to make fun of you for that. But you still got to love them. And, you know, you just need to let it roll off your shoulders. What was it? Shake it off, woo! You know, it's that Taylor Swift song. Now all the Republicans are triggered. I'm sure that they really hate the fact that I brought up Taylor Swift. It's like, can't we just go 1 minute without talking about that fucking white Jezebel?
Jesus Christ spoke some final words to his apostles saying, if the world hates you, know that it hated me first. And his response to us is this: blessed are you, so bless them.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't hate Christians. Like, that's just not something that most atheists do. There are some atheists out there that are like that. Like, they hate Christians just in general. But I personally don't hate somebody primarily because they're Christian. Because, like, saying that you're a Christian is really starting to be a slightly ubiquitous term. And or a ubiquitous way of describing yourself. Now, in our current socio-political environment, if someone's like, hi, I'm Christian, I'm like, what kind? Maggot or normal? Like, if you're a maggot Christian, yeah, stay the fuck away from me, you Christian nationalist. But if you're just normal, like progressive Christian, normal Christian, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's fine. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't know, believe in whatever. Just, you know, don't fuck children, I guess, or something or another. I'm just saying that, like, I don't hate somebody because they're Christian. I hate somebody because of specific things they've done or said to me or to other people. Like, that's what I'm trying to get across here. And so this guy's trying to portray all atheists as hating Christians. And he thinks that all atheists hate Christians because Jesus was like, if they hate you, don't worry, they hated me first. So I kind of took the brunt of it for you. Jester says, I swear Christians think they are the main force police, and reality is the early era Mad Max. That's what it kind of seems like. Like they seriously think that it's just sort of a wasteland of people that's constantly trying to fuck your faith over out there. And that's just simply not how reality is.
Thanks for watching Magnified.
No, we're not going to listen to you to tell people, like, go there, subscribe, and all that kind of shit. You should subscribe to me, by the way. Go down below, hit that subscribe button, because, you know, why not? Instead of listening to him tell people to subscribe to Magnet of what the fuck ever, you know, subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. But in any case, I really appreciate all of y'all watching me tonight, watching me cover this. I was not convinced by this video that atheists are just totally shitty and that, you know, we're disingenuous in our argumentation. We're disingenuous in describing our position or anything like that. I don't think that we're disingenuous at all. I feel like he's painting the entire demographic as this smaller set that actually exists. So this did nothing but prove to me that he's looking to push a narrative. He's looking to paint atheists as the aggressors, and he's looking to paint Christians as the victims all the time. Christians are not the victims, especially in the United States. As far as like their religion and their beliefs go, they are not the victims. Being forced to follow the law is not Christian persecution, like a lot of people think. And this factors into the whole Christian nationalism conversation that we're constantly having to have. But in any case, I'd love to hear what you guys thought about the video tonight. Did it convince you that atheists are shit? Or do you think that this guy is, like, he needs to go back to the drawing board a little bit? Like, he's not accurately representing, like, you know, atheists in this video. Let me know down below in the comments. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because we do have the Skeptic Mafia comments that we're going to be going over, which, oh shit, I actually don't have a view set up on my vertical for this. So I think for the vertical people, we're just going to go ahead and end it. And the full frame people, we're going to keep going with the Skeptic Mafia comments. We'll do Skeptic Mafia comments next week. So vertical people, y'all have a nice night. We'll see you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up, use your voice, and all that kind of good shit. And we'll see you guys next week.